He fixed her roof before the storm, unaware she'd change his life forever. Chapter 1. The storm's approach. It was a sweltering summer afternoon in Willow Creek, Nebraska, where the sky churned with heavy gray clouds, promising a storm that local farmers both craved and dreaded. Cornfields swayed under a hot wind, and the air carried the scent of dry earth, tinged with the metallic hint of coming rain. On the edge of town, where gravel roads wound past barns and clapboard houses, an old two-story home stood out, its paint peeling, windows dusty, and roof so worn it seemed to beg for repair. There lived a woman, known in town as Reclusive, a figure rarely seen at the Saturday market or Sunday service. He rolled into town that morning, a handyman drifting through the plains, his rusted Chevy pickup loaded with tools and a weathered canvas backpack. His sun-browned face bore lines of a life hard lived, and his deep brown eyes scanned everything with quiet focus. In Willow Creek, he was a stranger, but word of him spread fast at Dusty's Diner, the guy who could fix anything, from busted tractors to broken spirits, or so the gossip went. Over black coffee at the counter, he overheard two farmers. The roof on the old Miller Roadhouse was crumbling, and with a storm looming, the woman there needed help. Fast, something stirred in him, a pull he couldn't name. He drove to the house, its yard a tangle of weeds and rusted tools, the porch creaking under his boots. He knocked, the sound echoing in the stillness. After a long pause, the door opened, revealing a woman with brown hair in a loose bun, green eyes heavy with secrets, and a guarded expression. "What do you want?" she asked, voice firm but weary. He tipped his straw hat, a habit from roots. "Heard your roof's in bad shape. Storm's coming. I can fix it." She hesitated, arms crossed, sizing him up. In Willow Creek, strangers weren't trusted without cause, and she had plenty of her own. But the sky was darkening, and the wind rattled loose. "Shingles, how much?" she asked, blunt. He shrugged. "No charge. Just wanna help." The answer caught her off guard, but urgency won out. "Fine," she said, pointing to a ladder by the barn. "Tools are there." He worked for hours under the stifling heat, hauling himself up and down the ladder with hammer, nails, and new shingles from his truck. The roof was worse than he'd thought, holes where rain had seeped, rotted beams, and, oddly, a metal box tucked under a rafter, locked with a rusty padlock. He left it untouched, but its presence nagged at him. As he hammered, he caught her watching from the porch, sometimes bringing water, but saying little. Her silence felt heavy, like the house held more than just her. By sunset, as the first thunder rumbled in the distance, the roof was solid. He climbed down, sweaty hands rough, and found her on the porch. "It's done," he said, wiping his brow. "It'll hold through the storm." She glanced at the roof, then at him, as if trying to unravel him. "Why'd you do it?" she asked, softer now, but still wary. He gave a lopsided smile. "'Cause it needed doing." Before she could reply, he grabbed his backpack and headed for his truck. But the storm hit faster than expected. Lightning split the sky, and rain poured, turning the road to mud. She appeared at the door, shouting over the wind. "You're not driving in this day." He paused, then relented, logic beating pride. He spent the night on her living room couch, the rain hammering the roof he'd fixed. While she slept upstairs, he noticed the house's details: faded photos in cracked frames, a yellowed newspaper clipping about a local crime, and a small key on the mantel, sized for the box's padlock. Morning broke, the sky clear, the air fresh. She found him in the kitchen, handing him coffee. "Thanks," she said, her tone warmer. "Nobody does free work around here." He shrugged, but before he could leave, she grabbed the key. "There's something you need to see," she said, her eyes mixing fear and resolve. They climbed to the roof, where she unlocked the metal box, revealing letters, photos, and a journal. "This changes everything," she said, voice shaking. "And now you're part of it." Sunlight bathed Willow Creek, but for him, the real storm was just beginning. The woman, her house, and the secret he'd stumbled into were pulling him into a story he'd never expected. Chapter 2. The echoes of the past, the morning after the storm in Willow Creek. Nebraska dawned clear, but the air held the damp weight of rain that had battered the town. Cornfields glistened under the sun, yet mud-coated gravel roads and broken branches littered yards. The old house on Miller Road, its roof newly patched, had weathered the night's fury. But it now stood at the heart of a mystery the handyman couldn't shake. The metal box from the roof, filled with yellowed letters, faded photos, and a leather-bound journal gnawed at him, as did the woman's gaze. A mix of fear and secrets when she'd unlocked it. He woke on her living room couch, the scent of fresh coffee pulling him to the kitchen. She stood there, stirring oatmeal, her brown hair loose over her shoulders, green eyes dodging his. "You didn't have to stay," she said, voice low, less guarded than yesterday. He took the mug she offered, their fingers brushing briefly. "Wasn't leaving you with that roof," he replied, a half-smile tugging his lips. But the box, now on the kitchen table, loomed large. "What's in there?" he asked, nodding at it. She paused, lips tight, then slid it toward him, read it. "But don't judge me." They sat at the table, morning light filtering through dusty windows as he opened the journal. Its pages, scrawled in shaky handwriting, told of a younger Hura girl in Willow Creek, caught in a tragic summer. Letters, some signed J, spoke of forbidden love and a plan to escape town. Cut short by a crime. A murder at her family's farm supply store, echoed in the newspaper he'd seen downstairs. The photos showed her, youthful, beside a man, with kind eyes, and the now abandoned store on Main Street. "My brother," she said, voice cracking. They blamed him, but he didn't, I know. He closed the journal, the revelation heavy. He knew the ache of buried secrets, his own scars, from a war long past and a family gone, haunted him. "Why show me?" he asked. She met his gaze, eyes gleaming. "You found the box? And I think you get it." Before he could reply, tires crunched gravel outside. A neighbor, a burly farmer named Hank, knocked, warning that the storm had toppled fences and flooded the town fairgrounds. "Need hands in town," he said. Hank said, eyeing the handyman warily. He volunteered, sensing Willow Creek drawing him in. In town, Dusty's diner buzzed with gossip, storm damage, and the new guy at her house. He worked tirelessly, fixing fences, shoveling mud from barns, and helping set up tents for the makeshift fairgrounds. But eyes followed Hank, whispering to a deputy, a diner waitress mentioning the old store murder. That night, back at her house, he pressed her about her brother. She shared more. The store was her family's, the victim, a foreman, killed in a supposed robbery, pinned on her brother, who died in jail. "Someone framed him," she said, clutching her brother's photo. "And I think they're still here." Her words stirred his own past, a war veteran. Returning to a home that wasn't exist, drifting town to town, fixing things to avoid himself. Flashbacks hit. Desert nights, shouted orders, an unopened letter from his sister. Her grief echoed his, but the mystery deepened. He spotted a black SUV parked down the road at night, lights off, watching. "Someone knows we opened that box," he said, voice taut. She nodded, grabbing an old key to the store. "Then we go there." Moonlight bathed Willow Creek, its fields silent but alive with old truths. The house, now a haven, held echoes of its past, and the handyman, caught in a woman's secrets, was deeper in than he'd ever imagined. Chapter 3. Shadows in the rain. The midday sun fought to pierce the dark clouds massing over Willow Creek. Nebraska, days after the storm that had rattled the town. The air was thick, humidity sticking to skin like a vow of more rain, as if nature echoed the shadows growing in Clara's life, the woman in the old Miller Roadhouse, and Ben's, the handyman who'd patched her roof. The metal box from the roof, its yellowed letters, faded photos, and leather journal had cracked open her tragic past, a murder at her family's farm supply store. Her brother wrongfully convicted. Now Ben, a stranger just days before, was tangled in a web of secrets Willow Creek seemed determined to guard. Clara and Ben sat on the porch, coffee cooling in ceramic mugs, as warm wind stirred linen curtains. "You don't have to get involved," Clara said, voice soft, green eyes locked on the swaying cornfields. Ben, straw hat in calloused hands, shook his head. "I'm already in. That box, it's not just your story." He thought of the journal, her brother's anguished words, and the black pickup he'd seen watching the house at night. Clara sighed, pulling a letter from the box on the table. "Then you deserve more," she said, handing it over. The letter, inked by Clara's brother John, named a powerful man in town, Elias Thorne, who ran Thorngrain Co., and coned the family store. John hinted Elias had framed him, possibly to hide embezzlement. "Elias wanted the whole store," Clara said, voice trembling with buried anger. "He got it after John went to prison." The words hit Ben like a blow. Elias was still a titan. In Willow Creek, a churchgoer and town council stalwart, with eyes that cut through people. Ben knew the risk of challenging such men. His war veteran past taught him about power's price. Flashbacks dragged him to desert nights, comrades, shouts, and an unopened letter from his sister, gone while he was away. "Why didn't you go after Elias?" Ben asked, voice steady but laced with empathy. Clara looked away, fingers tightening on her mug. "I was 17. He owned the town." Her confession hung between them, a mirror to their shared loneliness. Before Ben could respond, tires crunched gravel outside. Hank, the burly neighbor, appeared on the porch, face creased. "Storm messed up the community hall," he said, voice gruff. "They're setting up a charity auction to fix it. Need hands." His eyes fixed on Ben. "Wary. You coming, stranger?" Ben glanced at Clara, sensing Willow Creek's test. "I'm in," he said, standing. Clara joined, reluctant, as if she knew the town was watching. At Dusty's diner, the town's pulse talk was sharper. Farmers and shopkeepers discussed storm damage, but whispers circled Clara and the outsider at her place. Lena, the curly-haired waitress, dropped a question while pouring coffee. "Been to that old store, stranger? They say it's haunted." Ben grinned, sidestepping, but caught Deputy Carl talking to Hank in the corner, eyes on him. The auction, held in a field under white tents, showed Willow Creek's heart neighbors donating quilts, pies, and labor. To rebuild the hall, Clara gave a hand-stitched quilt, its colors vivid, while Ben fixed the bidding table, improvising with truck tools. The crowd cheered, but Ben felt a chill seeing Elias Thorne among them, gray hair, neat, eyes cold, staring. At Clara, Hank sidled up, voice low, "Watch her, son. That family is nothing but trouble." Ben nodded, but the warning lingered. That night, Clara took him to the abandoned store, a rusted iron shell on Main Street, its broken windows and oil-soaked air eerie. By lantern light, they sifted through dusty boxes, finding records receipts signed by Elias, hinting at off-books payments. "Bribes," Clara muttered, clutching one. A snap echoed from the back. Ben spun, his flashlight catching a hooded figure. "Who's there?" he shouted, giving chase. The figure fled, but not before swinging a lead pipe. Knocking Ben to the dirt, Clara rushed to him, helping him up, heart pounding. "Elias knows we're here," she said, gripping the receipt. On the way back, she shared more. John had uncovered Elias's skimming, and the foreman's murder was a setup to silence him. Ben, head throbbing, saw his sisters face her death. His guilt-hand looked at Clara. "We don't stop," he said, voice firm. Back at the house, the black pickup was there again, closer, lights off. Clara grabbed a .38 revolver from a drawer, its metal cold in her hands. "This is bigger than us," she said, eyes hard, as thunder heralded another storm. Willow Creek hid its truths under falling rain. The old house, a shaky refuge, had become a battlefield, and Ben, tied to Clara by more than a fixed roof, faced shadows he couldn't outrun. Chapter 4. The heart of the storm rain lashed Willow Creek, Nebraska, turning gravel roads into muddy rivers and bending cornfields under howling wind. It was the weekend after the ambush at the abandoned farm supply store, and the town still nursed wounds from the last storm, but this new tempest felt like an omen. In the old house on Miller Road, Clara and Ben were closer, yet more cornered. The metal boxits incriminating receipts, letters, and Clara's brother's journal pointed to Elias Thorne as the puppet master behind the murder that shattered her family. Exposing a man who owned half of Willow Creek came at a cost, and the black pickup, now a constant shadow, warned their time was running out. Clara stood in the kitchen, her .38 revolver on the table, as Ben pored over the store's receipts under a dim lamp. "If we take this to the town council, Elias will crush us," she said, green eyes flashing with resolve but also fear. Ben, holding a cold compress to the bruise where a lead pipe had struck him, nodded. "Then we need more. Something he can't deny." He thought of the store, the figures stalking them, and his own past's weight. Flashbacks pulled him to a desert patrol, explosions echoing, and his sister's unopened letter tucked in his backpack like a scar. "We go back," he said. "Tonight." Before they could plan, thunder rattled the house, followed by pounding. At the door, Lena, the Dusty's diner waitress, stood soaked, curls plastered to her face. "The river's rising," she gasped. "The Main Street bridge is nearly gone. They need everyone." Clara hesitated, but Ben grabbed his jacket. "We'll help," he said, meeting her eyes. "Then the store." Clara nodded, tucking the revolver into her waistband. The town needed them, but their secret was a ticking bomb. In town, chaos reigned. The Willow River, swollen by rain, threatened to swallow the bridge, and volunteers scrambled to shore it up with sandbags. Ben led a crew, his calloused hands stacking bags with military precision, while Clara coordinated supplies at the community hall. Hank, the burly neighbor, worked beside Ben but shot him hard looks. "You're digging a grave, stranger," he muttered, heaving a bag. Ben ignored him, spotting Deputy Carl, watching from afar, talking to Elias Thorne, who'd shown up to help. Ilias's polished smile was a silent threat. At the hall, Clara found unexpected allies. Lena, privy to diner gossip about the store, pulled her aside. "I know about your brother," she whispered. "My aunt worked there." She said Elias set it all up. Clara's stomach nodded, but the confession sparked hope. She shared the receipts with Lena, who vowed to rally others. But word of their digging had spread, and Carl stormed the hall, demanding to see Clara. "You're stirring up things best left buried," he said, voice low but firm. Clara held his gaze, the hidden revolver burning against her skin. That night, under torrential rain, Ben and Clara returned to the store. The place felt darker, water dripping through the roof, the air thick with mold. They found a locked drawer, which Ben pried open with a crowbar. Inside, an old pistol wrapped in cloth bore initials, E.T. Ilias Thorne. "The murder weapon," Clara said, voice shaking. But headlights flared outside the black pickup. 2 armed men burst in, and Ben fought, flooring one with a punch, while Clara fired a warning shot, scattering the other. They fled with the gun, but the pickup chased them down muddy roads until Ben swerved into a cornfield, hiding them. Back at the house, drenched and bruised, Clara broke. "I thought I could fix this," she said, tears mixing with rain on her face. Ben, stirred by her pain, shared his own, his sister's death, his guilt for not being there. "You make me want to stay," he admitted, voice rough. Clara looked at him, raw, and their hands brushed. But trust faltered when Lena called, warning that Carl was searching the diner for Ben. Someone had betrayed them. As the storm roared, Willow Creek simmered with secrets. The old house, now a fortress, sheltered Clara and Ben. But the heart of the storm, Elias and his allies, was closing in. Chapter 5. Breaking the Clouds. Dawn broke over Willow Creek, Nebraska, with fragile relief after days of relentless rain. The sky, now flecked with white clouds, let sunlight warm sodden cornfields, but the town bore scars from the flood-broken fences, battered barns, and the Main Street bridge closed for repairs. In the old house on Miller Road, Clara and Ben teetered on the edge of war. The antique pistol from the farm supply store, etched with E.T. and incriminating receipts, pinned Elias Thorne as the Capotese's killer and the ruin of Clara's brother. But taking down a man who owned half of Willow Creek's economy and hearts demanded more than courage, it demanded a plan. And the risk of losing everything. Clara stood on the porch, her .38 revolver tucked in a drawer, as Ben sorted evidence. On the kitchen table, the pistol wrapped in cloth, receipts, John's journal, and a new letter from Clara's mother, begging Elias for justice. "The town council meets tomorrow," Clara said, green eyes hard as flint. "It's our shot to show who he is." Ben, jaw tight, nodded, but the ambush at the store haunted him. "Elias won't sit still," he said, thinking of the black pickup and its armed men. Flashbacks yanked him to a desert ambush, a friend's blood on his hands, and his sister's unopened letter, a wound in his backpack. "We need allies," he said. The town geared up for a recovery festival, a Willow Creek tradition to bind the community after disasters. At Dusty's diner, Lena, now a staunch ally, spread word that Clara sought justice for John. "Half the town's with you," Lena said, pouring coffee. "The other half thinks Elias is untouchable." Ben saw the split. Farmers like Hank, tied to Elias through grain deals, versus shopkeepers and youth who saw Clara as a hero. Hank, in the diner's corner, shot Ben a venomous look. "You're playing with fire, stranger," he said, storming out. At the festival, set in a pasture with food stalls, country music, and a speech stage, Clara and Ben pitched in. She helped run a quilt booth, while he fixed the corral fence for kids' pony rides. But tension simmered. Deputy Carl patrolled, and Elias appeared, shaking hands with a fake smile. His eyes locked on Clara. During a speech, Clara took the stage, holding John's journal, and accused Elias of corruption, flashing the receipts. The crowd hushed, split, until Hank shouted, "She's lying." Ben, in the audience, caught Carl signaling to mend the same from the store. That night, Clara and Ben planned to present the evidence at the council, but Lena brought crushing news. The pistol was gone from its hiding spot in the house. "Someone broke in," Lena said, shaken. Ben suspected Hank, who'd lingered on the porch days before. They confronted him at the saloon, a wooden dive beside the diner. Hank, sipping whiskey, laughed off the accusations, but his eyes betrayed guilt. "You don't know who you're messing with," he said. A brawl erupted when Elias's goons showed up, and Ben fought, shielding Clara, until Lena's warning shot stopped the chaos. Hank bolted, dropping a Keithastors at the house. Clara crumbled, Hank's betrayal cutting deep. "He was my dad's friend," she said, voice breaking. Ben moved, pulled his sister's letter from his backpack, reading it at last. "She begged me to come home," he confessed, tears falling. "I failed her." Clara took his hand, their losses binding them. The key led them back to the store, where they found a hidden safe. Inside, a ledger detailed Elias's crimes, bribes, threats, and the order to kill the capataz. Hank, revealed as an accomplice, had signed as a witness. The black pickup returned, sparking a chase into a cornfield. Ben fought the goons, taking a hit, but Clara shot, wounding one. They escaped, but Clara, fearing for Ben, chose to act alone. "I dragged you into this," she said, leaving him at the house to face Elias. Ben, battered but resolute, knew he couldn't let her go. As the sun rose, Willow Creek braced for the council meeting, and the clouds, at last, began to break. Chapter 6. A new dawn sunrise bathed Willow Creek, Nebraska, in golden light, warming cornfields still damped from weeks of storms. The town bore flood scars, patched fences, braced barns, the Main Street bridge closed, but a new energy stirred. In gravel streets, on porches, and in residents' hearts. The town council meeting, set for that morning in the community hall, was the turning point. Clara, carrying her brother's loss, and Ben, the handyman who fixed her roof, and now her fate, stood ready to face Elias Thorne, the store's ledger, incriminating receipts. And their courage threatened to topple Elias's corrupt empire. But the cost of justice hung heavy. Ben woke in the old Miller Road house, heart sinking as he realized Clara had left the night before. To confront Elias alone, He raced to his Chevy truck, engine roaring over muddy roads, his sister's letter in his satchel. Flashbacks hit, her summer laugh, her promise to wait for his war's end, and the guilt that drove him to drift. "I won't lose you, Clara," he muttered, tires skidding. At the hall, the town crowded in, farmers in worn hats, shopkeepers with notepads, families with restless kids split between Ilias's grip and Clara's growing pull, her story resonating. Lena, the Dusty's diner waitress, waited at the door, curls loose, eyes urgent. "She's inside," she whispered, pointing to the stage. "But Carl's with Elias, and they brought muscle." Ben pushed through, the air thick with tension, and saw Clara center stage, ledger in hand, her voice cutting through the crowd's hum. "Elias Thorne killed the store's foreman and framed my brother, John," she declared, raising receipts like a blade. Her voice shook but held, and Ben felt pride tinged with fear. Elias, crisp in a gray suit, stood, his cold smile clashing. With hard eyes, "This is a farce," he said, jabbing at Clara. "She's out to ruin what I've built." Ben climbed the stage, ignoring stares, and handed the ledger to the pastor leading the council. "Read it," he said, voice steady. The yellowed pages laid bare Ilias's crimes, bribes to officials, threats to rivals, and the order to kill the foreman, signed by Hank as witness. The crowd fell silent until a farmer shouted, "Is it true?" Hank, in the audience, tried to bolt, but neighbors grabbed him, voices raging. "You betrayed us." Clara looked at Hank, pain mixing with relief. "You were my dad's friend," she said, voice low. But he looked away. Deputy Carl stepped forward, hand on his holster, but Lena moved fast. "Bringing 2 Thorne Grain Co. workers who confirmed the embezzlement. Elias made us cook the books," said Tom, a gray-haired man. The town, once torn, began turning on Elias. But he didn't yield. With a gesture, the black pickup parked outside, and 4 armed goons stormed in. Chaos erupted. Ben floored one with a chair, while Clara fired her .38, grazing another's shoulder. Kids screamed, and farmers shielded families. Ben pulled Clara behind the stage, eyes on hers. "Stay with me," he said, voice rough. She nodded, and they disarmed a third goon, who fled as sirens blared state police. Tipped by Lena's diner radio, Elias cornered, tried to bribe the council, but the pastor, Terry, refused. "You've shamed Willow Creek," he said, nodding. 2 officers. Elias was cuffed, his empire crumbling under truth's weight. Hank, broken, confessed. Elias dangled land for his silence. "I didn't mean to," he mumbled, led away. John's name was cleared, and Clara, on stage, collapsed into Ben's arms, tears soaking his shirt. "You gave him back to me," she said, voice choked. After the meeting, the town held a memorial for John at the store's lot, now slated for a community center. Clara planted a rosebush in his honor, and Ben, beside her, read his sister's letter aloud, finally letting go. "She'd be proud," Clara said, taking his hand. He smiled, guilt eased. "You made me want to stay," he replied, and under the yard's oak, their gaze sealed something deeper. Carl, humbled, sought forgiveness, and Clara, heart light, granted it. Months later, Willow Creek bloomed. The store, rebuilt, hosted trade classes and a library, a tribute to John. Clara's house, its roof steadfast, was a home shared with Ben, who mended fences and hearts. An autumn festival united the town with music, dance, and fireside tales. Under stars, Ben and Clara danced, the past a faint echo. The roof, fixed before the storm, endured, like their love. Willow Creek, with its new dawn, shone, and they, together, were its light.